So,
Hello.
Susanne, this is a new show that we're going to try and do on a weekly basis. We've called it the Spin Bin. And so we're looking at all the spin that was on mainstream media during the week, and we're sticking it in the bin. That's the idea, yeah?
That's the idea. Yeah.
It's kind of like a mix between Gogglebox and Room 101, kind of. I'm thinking.
Yeah, exactly. That's it.
Yeah.
And just as entertaining.
Absolutely, yeah. And wait till you see the spin we have for you tonight. We're looking at two programs this week. We're looking at Katie Hannon's Upfront on RTE, the state broadcaster, on Monday night. And then, I'm not sure if it was on Tuesday or Wednesday night, on Virgin Media, they had a show called Is Ireland Full? And we're going to look at those. We have a couple of clips from those programs, and we're going to play a few, and we're going to have a chat about it. So let's get straight into it. Let me bring up the first clip here. I think we're going to start actually with Is Ireland Full? This was presented actually by, I forget the name of this journalist. Let's bring him up here now.
Ireland is facing an immigration.
What's his name?
Is his name Paul?
I think it is. Yeah. Didn't we bump into him at, was it Blanchardstown Courthouse?
Yeah, we caught him on camera there. Yeah, asked him a few questions, but he wasn't very chatty.
He wasn't very chatty. He scurried away fairly lively. That was, I think I was in court there in relation to that Sam Belton issue. I think it was.
Yeah.
I smashed my phone. More about that in the next week or two, actually. We've got loads of news on Sam Belton and the Socialist Party. So anyway, let's play this. This is the start of that show, this 1 hour documentary. Here we go.
Ireland is facing an immigration crisis at the moment, with communities right across the country struggling and services under pressure. The government says it has a plan, but is it too little, too late?
Is it?
Last week, the government published the comprehensive accommodation strategy, which sets out how we deal with the immediate crisis in terms of not being able to offer accommodation to everybody seeking international protection right now, but also sets out a way of reforming our international protection accommodation system, moving away from the over-reliance on commercial providers. Over the next number of months, we'll be ending contracts with providers of Ukrainian accommodation, and that will allow hotels move back into the tourism sector.
God, this fella is so full of crap. He really annoys me. I'm sure he annoys most of the country at this stage. So what basically... Yeah, so Ukrainians are going to be asked to leave their hotels, and he didn't say where they're going to put them, though. Where are they going to put them?
So they're talking about putting them in detention centres. And in 2021, Roderick O'Gorman published the white paper, which promised to end direct provision by the middle of 2024. And we're now almost in the middle of 2024. And, the first 4 months have passed anyway. And what month are we are in April? I mean, this is not going to happen. And even if it does happen, how is the ending direct provision to just put people in detention centres, which is, worse?
Yeah, it sounds like it's worse. But sure, how long is it going to take to build these centres? When is he planning on getting people out of the hotels? It's going to take time to build these centres, obviously. Like, where are they going to go in the meantime?
It would take years to build places like these. And, so just to say the white paper, that was where those tweets originated from, where he tweeted in several different languages, and he told people to come to Ireland. They would have their own door accommodation within 4 months, which obviously hasn't happened.
No.
Some Ukrainians have their own door accommodation, but nobody else really. Well, a few asylum seekers do as well. But the vast majority of them are still in asylum centres or human trafficking centres, as we more accurately refer to them as. So I do not see this happening. This is more waffle from the government. And even if it did happen, it's not a solution. Whose towns are these big detention centres going in? Nobody will have a say in that. You could have like a couple of thousand people in a detention centre. You ask who's going to build them. Well, that's more money as well, isn't it? Because they've been handing out money left, right and centre. Some of it coming from the Asylum, Migration and Integration Fund that the EU has, this honeypot to tempt governments into taking in loads of migrants. And then they put the tenders out on e-tender, which are overpriced. and hotels and that sign up. And now it'll be a case of builders signing up to build these detention centres. And it's going to cost an awful lot of money. If you look at the Children's Hospital, which hasn't been completed yet, it's cost €2.4 billion or dollars so far. And the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, which is the tallest building in the world, cost $1.5 billion.
Yeah, well, it's fair enough saying that, Susanne, but what you've left out there is the fact that the Children's Hospital is actually taller than that building, isn't that right?
It is, yeah. That's a fair point.
Yeah,
it's a bit taller.
Crazy. No, that's absolutely crazy. Now, come here, we have a rake of clips to get through. So I know you have loads to say, but I want to go on. Do you want to say something?
Can I just add one more point to that? There's a lot of places that have kitted out their hotels in a very specific way that would indicate that these hotels are going to be used in the long term for asylum seekers and refugees. The place up near where you live in Brafey has recently put solar panels all over the roof and kitted out this sports arena with no windows, but they kitted it out nonetheless. They just forgot to put in the windows. And I don't see why accommodation centres or human trafficking centres would do that if there's only a contract for a few months. So I think this is a load of waffle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. These people are here to stay for a long time, and most of them in these detention centres, as you say.
Yeah.
Rightio, let's keep going. Who's next?
National Protection Office. This is the first place where asylum seekers will come whenever they land in Ireland and they're seeking asylum. They come here with their documents to register for asylum, and then they're supposed to receive accommodation on arrival. As you can see, that's not happening. This is unlawful. There are legal requirements to find accommodation for people, and there's already been a case in Ireland and another case in the European Court of Justice that is challenging this situation.
Yeah, like I know the case she's on about. We reported on that a couple of months ago at this stage, where an asylum seeker who had been on the streets for a certain period of time, I'm not sure if it was days or weeks, managed to take a high court case and try and sue the state. And your one is saying there's a legal obligation. Like, is there no legal obligation for the state to house Irish people? That would be my first question on that. And how are asylum seekers? It's very expensive to take a high court case. So I don't know. It must have been funded by someone. I didn't think you could actually do that. I didn't think you could have third party funders in Ireland. But it's crazy. I mean, it's crazy. Why aren't we looking after our own first? Why is there no legal obligation to look after Irish people on the streets?
Well, they're being helped by NGOs to fight their cases in court. So taxpayers' money is being used to fight the cases of these asylum seekers. And there's a lot of money being made there. But when it comes to legal obligations, what about the legal obligations of the people trying to come into the country? So it's illegal. It is a crime to destroy your passport and your documents, or to
Michael McNamara mentioned that in the Dáil some weeks ago. Yeah.
So there was a case of an Eritrean man who they brought to they convicted him of destroying his documents, which was an optics case, because we know they don't generally do that, and it was a win-win situation for that man anyway, because he got a few weeks in jail. So he's sleeping in Mountjoy instead of in a tent, and he gets to stay here, right? So, and we'll get back to him in a few minutes. But basically, the judge said, this is a crime. You cannot destroy documents, okay? And there was a briefing that was given to Helen McEntee from the Department of Justice a couple of years ago, and they've tried to suppress this briefing for the last couple of years, and the Freedom Commissioner told them they have to release this information. So in that document, Helen McEntee was advised that one way to get people out of the country who have come here illegally is they can be deported because they've committed a crime by destroying their documents. So they also said that the vast majority of people coming in are economic migrants. We know that 85% of people who arrived at the airport last year destroyed their documents. 87% of men destroyed their documents. And these people are here illegally. They have not fulfilled their own legal obligations. We're all law-abiding citizens here, and we're expected to abide by the law. And if we don't abide by the law, we get sent to jail. And, you know, people are just walking in the door and destroying their documents. Why are they destroying their documents, first of all? But secondly, they should be sent back out the door when they do so. And we don't have a legal obligation to take anybody because we have an opt-out clause when it comes to justice and immigration. We're like Denmark has one as well, because we're small countries and we could become easily overwhelmed, which is what's happening now. And that's set to get worse with the Migration Pact. So when this lady talks about legal obligations, she's only interested in the legal obligations as she sees it of the state, but not the other way around.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, let me play this fella here. This fella seems to get a lot of airtime. He's on RT a couple of times, I think, as well. He's their kind of poster boy, asylum seeker. So,
level, in every step, I found really hard pushback. I ran for many
Sammy.
people hard for us as black and brown people. Really tough.
I was talking to a man here yesterday and he told me he's from India and he's a criminal, that this government wants him. So yous are out here supporting people like that, but yet you won't go in and help our own people on the streets. And he's having a fucking laugh. And he's actually all right as well. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's why people are so angry. I'm not the only one. You can point that all like you like at me as well.
Well, why are you angry? What are you angry about?
That there's unvetted migrants in our country. That's why the Irish people are angry.
There is,
Does that happen all the time?
yeah, usually.
How does that make you feel?
I feel these people little lower education people then should be something change in education.
you see, that is the problem. We're just not educated enough, Susanne. And if we, if we were more educated, unbelievable.
So most of the country must be uneducated then, because most people have the same problem this lady has, and that's been reflected in public polls that people are worried about immigration and think we've taken in too many people. And I would say it's actually very astute and very smart to be concerned when your national borders are being treated in the way that ours are. That's a clever lady. You know, and if more people spoke up the way she does, we wouldn't be in this position. So this is Sammy, or Musa Dogan is his real name, except we don't even know if that's his real name because he could have had another name before that. And just can we please take a moment to note the sad music that was played alongside this interview. And Sammy is a very friendly and benevolent name, isn't it? So it makes him sound a lot friendlier than Musa. Musa
he could have been Samurai Sammy there a couple of months ago. It wasn't a samurai sword he had, but I know when there was some protests, and I couldn't find the footage just before we came on air here. Like, but yeah, a lot of people would have seen the footage, like, you know, where I don't know what he grabs. Like, is it some big long steel bar or something like that? And he's waving at the crowd, like, you know, a railing, was it? Yeah,
a metal railing. So he literally pulled the 8 foot metal railing off the railings it was attached to, and there was children and women present, and he swung it around, roaring and shouting. That clip can actually be found on Stephen Sutton's YouTube page. I don't think that's the name of his YouTube page, but you'll find it if you look up the song Thought Crime. The clip is in that video, and Stephen Sutton's actually done a couple of great articles on this guy. So he is, Turkey claims that this man is a terrorist, and Musa himself has admitted on camera that he's wanted in Turkey and that they want to give him the death penalty. He has come from, we know he was in at least one other country where he was living. So he was in Sweden. Why did he feel the need to come to Ireland when he was living in Sweden? And this thing he's saying about Ireland is a hard place for a lot of people, but it's especially hard for the brown and the black people.
Rubbish.
Well, why has he come here then?
Exactly.
If it's so hard, why has he come here? We're not stopping you from leaving. And this guy has really either ingratiated himself into the NGO sector and the media, or else they've chosen him and sort of, like to put him front and center. They think he speaks well. And he's a clever enough guy because he can turn it on, and the cameras, when the Virgin Media camera is looking at him, he can seem reasonable and calm, and he's not swinging around a railing. But he let his mask slip a little bit by calling that lady uneducated, I think, because that's an extremely disrespectful thing to say. Like, he's talking about people judge us, because we're black or we're brown or whatever, which, I don't think colour really comes into it. It's more of a cultural thing that people are worried about, and the lack of background checks. But he's saying that people judge them, but he is making a snap judgment about somebody.
Yeah. What is it with like Irish mainstream media and some of these guys that they put up as their poster boys? Like, you have this dodgy dude, I would possibly say. You had your man Steo Wall, was that his name?
Oh yes,
he was in prison for murder.
Yeah, Steo Shiv Wall, as he's otherwise known, because he made a shiv in prison and he stabbed someone in the chest and he killed them. And then RT had him on TV talking about, how hateful Irish people are. Yeah,
unbelievable. They don't know how to pick them.
We haven't murdered anybody.
You'd wonder, are the media actually taking the piss, or did they just not do their research and don't know who the bloody hell they're talking to? It's hilarious, some of these people they put up front and centre.
I think it's gaslighting the people, but I also think that they're just so arrogant as well that, you only have to look at who they put forward for the Eurovision to see, this is a habit they're in where they'll put very inappropriate people forward as moral beacons, and somebody for us to follow and look up to.
Yeah. Now, it wouldn't be a documentary on mainstream media about immigration without a mention of the far right. So here we go.
It's where we're opening new accommodation. There's a diverse range of views. Some people want information. Some people disagree with government policy, and people are entitled to disagree with government policy, and they're entitled to express that either through protest or indeed through the electoral system.
Yes, right.
But there are also people out there, and you only have to look online, who hate people because they're from a different country or because their skin is a different colour. And I think we shouldn't be afraid to call that out and recognise that these people are spreading a huge amount of incorrect information, disinformation, lies about what's happening in our country right now.
God, this fella's unbelievable.
We're extremely concerned by the far right. However, they are a tiny, tiny group of people.
Tiny is right. They don't bloody exist. Go on.
The vast majority of people across Ireland know that they stand for hatred and racism, and they have no place in our societies.
Who are these far right people? Where did they come from? When did they arrive in Ireland? The first time I got called far right was during the whole COVID situation there, let's call it, when I was outspoken. I had lots of concerns about everything that was going on regarding putting masks on kids and not being allowed to go 2 kilometres and having to if you wanted to get into a pub, you had to spend £9 on a meal. Loads of this stuff I pointed out. And because of such, I was far right. That was the first mention I heard of being far right in Ireland. And,
it's just a label to shut down debate and discussion.
It's rubbish, because we're such the far right. I say we because what newspaper was it? The Irish Examiner there, the Christmas before last, did an article. Do you remember I showed you that? Like a full page article, and mentioned myself in it and mentioned 9 or 10 other people. And crazy, like they started off, I think the article mentioned about the mosque that somebody shot up in New Zealand. And talked about that being, the rise of the far right over there. And then went on to say, now that hasn't happened yet in Ireland, and then went on to list like myself and other people that I had a meeting in Castlebar.
As well.
I'll say my father.
And your father as well, who is involved in absolutely nothing.
Absolutely, yeah, because he attended, because I put on a meeting here because nobody else was going to put on a meeting in Castlebar. Everyone was talking about it. Everyone had concerns. So I decided I'd put on the meeting, and because of that, I was part of the far right. But it's so rubbish. Now, what he does say there is, which I agree with him, is it's a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage of people or whatever that's the far right. That is true. It's so small. I don't know any of these far right people. I know they mention names like Philip Dwyer and Gavin Pepper and Derek Bly, and who else did Paul Murphy say in the Dáil? Was there someone else he said? There was a fourth person, I think. Mick O'Keefe, I think. So they seem to be like the main far right, main threat to the state, as far as the likes of Paul Murphy from the Socialist Party or PPP would say. But on the other hand, the far right, the far left. Now, that's not a tiny percentage of people. The far left is what we should be really worried about, because they're the ones pushing this open borders, mass immigration. They're the ones pushing the sexualization of children.
Well, they're an outspoken minority, though, as well. This guy Nick Henderson, by the way, if the far right is a very tiny number, why is he so worried? And who is he to say that any Irish person doesn't have a place in our society? This British man, saying, these people. So he's talking about you and I. He's talking about. When he talks about the far right, he means anybody who disagrees with his open border policy.
Yeah.
So, he's talking about almost the entire country. So no, we're not far right, but that's what he considers us to be.
Yeah, exactly. Very much right so far, however.
Yeah, absolutely. And just with Roderick O'Gorman saying we're entitled to our opinions and we're entitled to disagree with government policy. Well, what we're actually entitled to is to expect that our government will protect our borders and protect our people and protect the interests of our people. And that includes everybody who's there's lots of people who've come in and been here for 10, 15, 20 years and who work here and are settled here. And, everybody deserves protection. Our borders are not being controlled. He serves us. They serve us, and they have totally prioritized agendas that have nothing to do with this country. They're EU federalist agendas or globalism agendas or the UN agenda, because they wrote a document in the early 2000s, replacement migration. That's what this is all about.
Yeah. Bear with me now.
An organisation to work with people seeking protection, and that includes women and children and families, but it also includes single men. I've been doing this work for more than 20 years, and some of the most vulnerable people I've ever worked with are men. I can assure you that within 48 hours of somebody arriving in Ireland, the authorities would know more about that person than they would ever know about you or I. They would, if I apply for asylum in Ireland, I'd be interviewed at Dublin Airport. I'd be directed to Mount Street, to the International Protection Office on Mount Street, and at that office, I would have my fingerprints taken from me. Those fingerprints would be checked on what's called the Eurodac database. I'd be subject to a preliminary interview where my name, age, address, family details would be taken from me. So there's a huge amount of information that's taken from somebody within a short period of time in the country. We just don't, it's not borne out in reality, the idea that we have unvetted people coming here.
Well, that's good, because a lot of people were worried about that. So that is good to know that everybody is fully vetted, and we shouldn't have an issue with these single men, because they're some of the most vulnerable people that that your man Henderson, isn't it? That he has.
Henderson of the Irish Refugee Council, he's their
Yeah.
CEO, 80 grand a year.
Yeah. So, I mean, there you go. The single males are some of the most vulnerable he's ever seen or he's ever worked with. Like, you'd wonder about their wives and their kids that they've left behind after fleeing whatever war, their imaginary war they're fleeing. Like, you know, how are the women and children coping at home? I'm sure they're grand.
Yeah, don't men stay and fight in war instead of leaving their mothers, grandmothers, sisters, children, who are all very vulnerable. And, you know, 85%, as we know, 87% of men are destroying their documents coming in. So, like, as I think we already mentioned, the document that was released by the department under the duress of the Information Commissioner states that most of the people coming in are economic migrants.
Mm-hmm.
So these people who are coming in, probably about 85% of them are economic migrants, because that's probably why they are destroying their documents in the first place. They're not meant to be here and they know it. So they are taking away places from genuine people who really, really do need help.
Of course.
A lot of them are coming from safe countries. And Nick Henderson is lying here to people. There's no way that this person does not know the real extent of background checks. And, you know, you'll notice when he's talking near the end of the clip there, he's shaking his head constantly, because he's telling us something that he wants us to think is true, but he's shaking his head because he knows it's not true. Your mouth can lie, but your body will betray you every time. So there was a parliamentary FOI done by Carol Nolan, TD, and Michael McNamara, TD, to the Department of Justice. And,
right,
you know, they were given information that, you know, we were not privy to when we did our FOI. Because they're TDs, they have that power, which is good for us, because, you know, they were asking some important questions. And just a couple of weeks before this, Leo Varadkar had come out and said that people are background checked, but they're not background checked. So there's a couple of things to say on that. The Department of Justice admits that they do not contact governments of the people, the people that are coming in. They're not going to contact their governments, because those people could be claiming that they're fleeing their government.
Yeah, being persecuted in their own home, in their own country.
Or whatever, yeah. So they're not going to contact those governments and alert them to the fact that those people are here. And then they talk about, Nick Henderson talks about Eurodac and fingerprinting. Now, I've heard from a guard that fingerprinting hasn't been done basically for over a year now. But even if it is done, Eurodac is not a criminal database. And unless somebody's fingerprints have been recorded within basically the EU, they're not going to be on that system. African countries, Middle Eastern countries, Asian countries, they generally don't sign up to these databases. So, if somebody comes in from, I don't know, Libya or wherever, they're not going to show up on that database unless they've come from another EU country where they've already been fingerprinted. And then you have the Schengen information system, and this can have some information on there about a criminal background for some people, but again, only if they've come to the attention of the authorities in the Schengen area before.
Mm-hmm.
Again, countries outside that area are not signed up. to that, and it's not a criminal database. So and Europol, same thing. Like, fugitives might show up on that. But and we also know as well, even when they do know somebody has committed a crime, they're letting people in anyway. There's been plenty of cases before the courts where, somebody has been raped and it's turned out that that person served time before in another country for a similar crime.
Mm. So we just don't know who we're getting, but it's not good anyway. Now, safe countries and deportation. Now, the list of countries here, let's just listen to the countries that are listed here of where people are coming from.
Has a list of safe countries, one of them being Georgia, which, doesn't have widespread persecution or widespread human rights abuses like a country such as Somalia or Afghanistan, say. And what that means is people applying for asylum who are from those countries, those applications can be heard a lot faster. In most cases, those claims will be denied, the historical figures show, so those people can then be issued with a deportation order. The official figures for deportation are not very helpful for telling us how many people are actually leaving the country or being deported from the country. Only a small fraction of people are actually physically deported. For the most part, the governments rely on people to self-deport. Now, how many people self-deport, we simply don't know.
In our experience and from working with people in that situation, very few people would actually do that. And they do that because they're scared. They do that because they believe that if they went back to their country, they would be at risk. They have built up connections here in Ireland. They also may not be able to return to their country. They may not have the documentation to do so. So if somebody doesn't remove themselves, then the government, the authorities have the power to remove somebody back to their country. In reality, there has been little and few deportations in Ireland, and that would be consistent with other European Union countries.
Yeah, so that's what we kind of knew for a while, isn't it? We don't know how many people are self-deporting, but you would imagine not many, because there's no follow-up. Sure, why would they?
Who's going to do that? Can I just rewind a little bit on the previous clip, because there was one very important thing that we didn't cover there about what he said. And he said about preliminary interviews being done and that people are questioned and the government knows more about them than they do about any Irish person within the first 48 hours of when they arrive. I would like to know how is that possible when we know, okay, we've already covered background checks, so we know they're not doing background checks. We know that 85% of people arriving at the airport have destroyed their documents. So how can you trace that person? And in Ireland, I mean, you have to, as an Irish person, you have to jump through hoops to get a passport. If you haven't had one for 15 years, you have to really provide an awful lot of documents. I've been down that road. If you present as homeless to your local authority and you need emergency accommodation, you must provide a passport or a driver's license, and it must be valid. You must provide proof of the fact that you're homeless. You must provide every address you've ever had, your last lease agreement, documents with your last address on them. And then you have to go through a process to gain access just to emergency accommodation. If you're looking for a pension, you have to provide every address you've ever had all of your life. You have to provide your mother's maiden name. For somebody who's been dead for decades, there's absolutely no way that they know more information about these people than they do about us.
But sure, what is he even basing that on? Like, fair enough. First of all, as we said, they have no documents. I presume if they don't have their passport, they don't have previous lease agreements with them from wherever they were before. Like, they've got nothing, and they just give a story in an interview.
Yeah,
so they can say everything. And there's a great documentary from a couple of years ago by Lauren Sutherland, I think, which shows Borders. Yeah, is it Borders or Borders? I can't remember.
Borders, yeah.
Borders. just talks about and shows in that documentary how the NGOs kind of coach some of these asylum seekers, and tell them what to say and how to say it, how to come up with their sob story. So yeah, I mean, absolutely rubbish. I mean, again, you've called that man a liar. Like, I'd be inclined to agree with you there. And hopefully he hears this.
He can sue me. He can sue me if he wants.
Well, he can sue the both of us now, I suppose, because we're here together.
But he'd have to prove that that what he has said is correct, and he wouldn't be able to say that because it isn't.
Yeah. So yeah, that's Nick Henderson. Let's go on. I know we're kind of, what time is it? We're 36 minutes here, and we have another program to get.
Talk about the deportations. I have an interesting figure on that if you'd like to know it.
Yeah, please do give us that, and then we'll go on to our one of our last clips, I think.
Okay.
Deportation.
Yeah. So I just have a note here. I just want to find it because I want to get the statistic right. But according to the Department of Justice briefing to Helen McEntee, which they tried to hide, the number of deportations between 2015 and 2020, and this is not self-deportations, this is enforced deportations, was an average of 1,341 a year. And that has dropped since 2021 to 155 in 2021.
Wow.
So, and, even people who commit serious crimes are told to self-deport. There was a sex offender, Chico Mancada, I think his name is. I'm not sure if I got his second name right, but he didn't self-deport. And there's plenty of them like that. And, they, like, I know in the UK, and I'm pretty sure that the same is true here, even when they're told to self-deport, they can reapply for asylum with a different reason, as long as it's a different reason. So, by the time these people are here so long that then, they just kind of go, okay, well, you may as well stay here because you have roots. And this, in this government briefing that they tried to hide, it was advised that Helen McEntee focused on deporting people who have come here in the last 3 years to avoid that very thing where they say, well, I've put down roots here, my children go to school here, etc., etc. And Conor Gallagher here, by the way, he comes across very plausible and very reasonable and not necessarily an enemy of the people. But this guy is a real radical leftist, and he has no problem reporting. I mean, he's had headlines where he has said, that someone was a white Irish rapist, but he would never say that about, anybody who wasn't white and Irish.
Yeah.
He won awards for covering the Anna Kriegel case. He's a crime journalist. And yet he never ever wrote about Aisling Murphy, only to say a few days after her death that the far right were hijacking her murder in order to further their cause. But I would say he was the one hijacking things there by writing that in the first place, just a few days after this girl had lost her life in such a horrific manner. And he reported that she was strangled when we know she was stabbed in the neck 11 times and almost decapitated. Yeah,
another radical leftist in our mainstream media.
Yeah.
You think you've written an article or two about him, have you?
Yeah, I did I think I did a video about him, and he's a particular thorn in my side, this guy, because and when he talks about in articles about, this person who was raped, it was definitely, not a migrant, it was someone white and Irish. Like he quoted a source, but he didn't say who the source was. Was it the guards? Who was it?
Was it his imaginary friend?
Exactly. Yeah, he's pretty much an enemy of the Irish people, this guy.
Yeah, just to say, with this 1 hour documentary on Virgin Media during the week, like some people, it's been said by some people that it was quite balanced and unbiased, but I really don't think it was. They did a good job of setting it up to look like that. Like the way they framed it from the start is that this is just, is Ireland full? So we're just talking about accommodation. Now, we can't show the whole programme, but it starts off with some hoteliers or managers. I can't remember your man's name on Twitter, Paul Trevard or something like that. He owns he's a chef, has a restaurant down in Killarney, and just talking about the issues with lack of accommodation, tourist accommodation, and how it's affecting the town and whatnot, and also housing as well. But as well, like, it doesn't talk about the services and resources and the problem there. It doesn't talk about the issues with policing. It doesn't talk about all the dangers with all these unvetted male migrants coming in, which we're not meant to be afraid of. But we should, because look, I'm not going to repeat what we've said already. But like, why would you be dumping your passport, and why would you be coming here if you're already settled in another European country? But the only part, so everybody that they've had on here is basically kind of supporting mass immigration or having a go at the imaginary far right. The only person that they had on for a little bit of balance was your man from Gript. What's the name? Forget his name.
John McGurk.
John McGurk, sorry. Let's look at the last clip of the show, because I want to get on to Upfront with Katie Hannon.
Mm-hmm.
Radio, here's the last clip.
An increase in the number of people seeking protection in Ireland. If we'd been having this conversation in, say, January of 2022, there was probably around 9,000 people who were in the accommodation system. Currently, there are 27,000 people in our accommodation system.
I suppose that the phrase Ireland is full has become kind of a catchphrase nearly for the anti-immigrant, anti-asylum seeker kind of movement over the last year, in the sense that the system is under intense pressure. I suppose it's true, but the other side of it is that the country relies on immigration to a massive extent to run not just its health service, but lots of other industries as well. So the idea that Ireland is full,
go on, let him finish.
As a society, as a country, as an economy, is patently false.
Generally, we have huge amounts of land in Ireland. We have significant amounts of derelict properties that could be used. And also, and this is a point that we always try to make, is that our accommodation recommendations for refugees and people seeking asylum do not, we believe, stray into or take away accommodation from the mainstream population, including from homeless services. So it's nothing more than a false hashtag ultimately, and we just don't. It doesn't meet reality.
So there you go. That's basically the end of the program. So in summing up, they're like, yeah, well, look at. Basically, there might be some issues, but overall, all in all, Ireland is not full. It's not having any impact on accommodation, whether it's someone looking to rent or homeless accommodation. And he just about concedes there that, okay, maybe, services are under stress somewhat, I suppose, but we need immigration. We need these people coming over here because they, support the health service, and we'd be lost without them.
Well, just to say, there are a lot of very good people in the health service who are migrants, nurses, doctors. But are
these the people that are dumping their documents, by the way, coming over here and just telling them, yes, I'm a doctor. Yeah, I'm a doctor. Yeah.
Yeah, no, of course not. And of course not. And, anybody who's dumped their documents, how could they ever work in a job where you need a background check? Exactly. Like being a doctor or a nurse. And of the doctors that have come over, I think something like 75% of doctors who have been before the medical council don't have Irish names. Let's just say that. Like I say, there's a lot of good foreign people in the health service. I've met them when I've had operations, stuff like that. They're very good, kind people. But some of these people's documents also aren't being checked properly. I know somebody who works in a recruitment agency, and they, it's for medical recruitment, and they tell me that the recruitment agency gets like 15 grand per person that they bring in, and that the documents are not being checked properly for that reason, because there's no incentive to check the documents, when that's happening. Yeah. And just the numbers that he mentioned there, 9,000 people in
2022.
In 2022 and 27,000 now. So
three times.
triple in 2 years. And with the Migration Pact, how many people are we obliged to take in?
I think minimum of 15,000 a year.
30, I think.
Is it 30? Sorry, twice what I thought. 30,000 a year. I have it there somewhere. And there's the fee there, the fine. I don't have it in front of me here. I'll find it in a couple of minutes. That'll come up on the next show, actually.
Yeah, it's I think it's 600 million.
600 million, you're right.
A year or something like that, to send them back if we don't want to have them.
Yeah.
So just with Conor Gallagher there saying that we need immigration, like what these people are saying is like, we need people to make our coffee and clean our hospitals and do all the crap jobs that nobody else wants to do. We need cheap labor, and just, you know, like we wouldn't need to be bringing people in if our best and brightest were not leaving the country, and they're leaving the country because they can't afford to live here. They can't afford to even if they could find accommodation, it's not affordable. They can't buy a house. You know, if they really are so bothered about the fact that we have an aging population and we don't have enough workers, why are people not incentivized in every way possible to have children? They'll do everything to help you, you know, not have, it's not a discussion about abortion and, you know, the rights and wrongs of that. We're not going to get into that, but it's, you know, they will do everything to help you have an abortion if you want one. They won't do everything they can to help you have a child and have a family. There's lots of people who want to have babies who are not having babies. In 2020, 25% of babies born here, according to the CSO, were to foreign mothers. At the time, the official numbers of migrants in the country was 12% of the population. That is massive. A quarter of the babies born here were born to, you know, women in that 12%. Yeah. Now the official figure is 20%. We know it's probably more close to 25%, really. And they're just not admitting that, because all you have to do is look around. You'll see that, like, as I've said before, where I live, Irish people are very, very much in the minority. Maybe 10 to 15% of people where I live are Irish. So this notion of, you know, we need immigration. Yeah, help people here to have babies. Help people not want to leave.
Exactly.
Help people to come back, for that matter. Help people there's millions and millions and millions of Irish people all around the world who want to come home and they can't come home.
That's what I would love to see happen. And, you know, if there was, you could make that happen if there was the will to do so. If you had a government that actually cared about their people and about their land, you could incentivize Irish people to come home. You know, even second or third generation Irish people who want to come back and live here and contribute to society. And, you know, that's what I would love to see happening at some point. And I think it can happen.
Millions and millions, by the way, is the second and third generation as well.
Yeah. Susanne, I'm going to move on to this second show here. This was on Monday night on RT1. It's Katie Hannon's Upfront show. Now we're going to start off with two clips from the audience. Now this isn't meant to be a comedy clip or anything like that. These are actually members of the audience, absolute radical leftists. So enjoy, have a laugh.
These are real people.
These are real people.
Even if they are planted there, they're real people.
Here we go.
Is a very delicate balancing act between ensuring humanity for those who are fleeing the most appalling of circumstances and ensuring that Ireland is equipped enough to cope with them. And I think in terms of the short-term issue of ensuring that people can flee the most war-torn of areas, that is being done. But as regards the long-term issues of how sustainable that is, I think that's a separate issue.
Is this whole debate not necessarily manufactured, but manipulated by maybe a kind of far right agenda? Like where I'm from in Cork, there's no centres. It's but yeah, all these issues that other people are addressing, like overwhelm of police services and health doctors, we still have those. You know, we've had absolutely like one family like move in recent years. So I don't think it's a necessarily an asylum seeker issue, refugee issue. I think it's a wider government issue, and the far right forces or bodies tend to manipulate that and kind of feed on the fears of individuals, causing a lot of tension and xenophobia, racism, etc.
Yep, xenophobia, racism.
Yeah, so there's xenophobia.
Yeah, there's our audience members. I mean, it's the same every week on this show. Like, you know, it's a tiny audience, by the way. And, you know, I remember when I was, 18, 19 years of age, over 20 years ago, and I was in doing media, doing radio broadcasting in Ballyfermot College. You know, these RTE shows would come in and they'd like first year media students to come and sit in the audience. And obviously when you're that young, and especially now with the way the colleges are and with this push on the whole leftist agenda, you know, young people are a little bit more naive. And they want to be seen to do, like, it's a lovely idea, like invite the world to come and stay, like, but it just doesn't work like that. It's not practical. It doesn't work on so many levels. Yeah, it'd be great, but no, it doesn't work like that.
Like, I mean, I know you're saying it's a lovely idea, and I can see why they might think that on the face of it. But like, if you really think about it, it's not a lovely idea. He's this guy at the start, you know, he's talking about we're giving these people humanity. You know, is it humanity to stick people in centres where they're subject to rules and surveillance and cameras on them, and children growing up in very abnormal conditions, which will have a devastating impact on them and for society as well? You know, would he live in those conditions? You know, if he lost his nice house tomorrow, you know, would he be happy to be put in a situation like that? And these people will never get out of those situations. Never. Mm-hmm. They'll like, what chance do they? It's not going to happen. They're just going to keep bringing in more and more and more, and people will be living in those centres for their lives. You know, so it's not really a nice idea, and it encourages child trafficking. It encourages people smuggling to have open borders. It encourages. There's lots of harm being done to these people, actually.
Yeah, big time. And they're, as you say, they're going to be stuck there for a long time. I'm not sure if it's in this program or some other program I saw during the week, and you can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but I think I heard them saying that there are currently over 6,000 Irish citizens living in these IP centres. You know, so
yes, that's exactly.
That's pretty crazy, like, already. Like,
they didn't get their citizenship, and then the same day it was like, okay, now here's a nice place for you to live. We do, of course, see that where there's like people giving houses over Irish people. Some of that, I think, is actually to encourage people from abroad to come in, because they see that online and they say, oh, look, should they give you a house, you know? But you know, because they want more and more people to come in, because there's people making money off the back of this. Everybody's making money. The lawyers are making money. Was it Barry Andrews' wife? He's an MEP. He's voting yes in the Migration Pact. His wife has made €1 million from legal cases to do with asylum claims and appeals. And everybody's just making so much money. There's so much greed going on. This is the very definition of human trafficking, moving people around, you know, and making money from that. That's what's happening here. So we have to cut these two people some slack, because, as you say, they're probably very young. The RTE probably prowls the universities and finds the most indoctrinated people who maybe don't really have a sense of themselves, or, you know, a sense of necessarily of social belonging, and they're looking for something to attach themselves to that's meaningful. But like, you know, the guy in the audience looking at the girl says it all. Like, that guy is on our page, and he's looking at it. What are you talking about? She basically says, there's no migrants here where I live, so there's no problem. Well, maybe that's because you live in a very nice posh area. Why are all these people just being put in the working class areas?
Yeah. All right. Look, we have 10 clips to get through, so we're going to fly through these because we're under serious pressure. We plan to do this show in an hour. We're 57 minutes already. We're going to do this next show in half an hour, Susanne. Okay, so keep that in mind.
Yeah. Sorry.
Orville House in Roscrea, which has 125 international protection applicants and refugees. Yeah. Can you understand, though, when you hear Aoife there talking about the fear that is in the community when you see, as she says, you know, a large number of men who have, you know, just landed in this place altogether with nothing to do. Can you understand those fears in communities?
I can and I can't. Like 100.
I can and I can't. I mean, I can because, like, of, you know, all the obvious things, like, but I can't in the sense that, like, I'm making a lot of money, like, so I can't really.
160 males that are there running for their lives, majority of them, men that have come to this country to try maybe just gain employment, to try and start a life for themselves. the men that we have in our centre come down and say, Christine, we have children at home. We want to live in this country. We want to be part of the community.
Yeah, Christine, right. I'm sure.
Are they fleeing away from something, or are they running away from something, or are they running towards something? They're running towards, money and freebies here, a better life. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that, but if you're going to do it illegally, you need to get out. End of story. Coming from safe countries, we know they're coming from safe countries for the most part. We know this. This is official figures.
Yeah, I mean, you can't take her seriously. Like, that was hilarious. I heard that question. I was listening for that answer. Like, but can you understand like where people are coming from? Like, we've talked about it all for the last hour. Like, I can and I can't. Absolute bullshit, Christine. Good luck. Go on. You're making a pack of it.
Yeah, of course. And they have children at home. Excuse me?
Yeah.
They're fleeing their lives, but they've left their children at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
You joking me? You couldn't. Wild horses couldn't separate me from my daughter if it was a war zone. I'm hardly going to turn around and go, how do you explain that to a child? Good luck.
Yeah.
I'm going.
I know.
I'm going to get. They're going to give me money over there, So
I might send you some back. Here's some more people from the audience. Now, this man his name is Suzie Hussain, and I cut out the fella sitting beside him. His name is Micheál Frain. Both of these are independent candidates running in the local election, and this is Saj. Let's hear what he has to say.
I know the people. Thousands, the houses are destroyed. There is no. I know the boy. The whole family died. Nobody left. I know the people. Another person. They are here. The brothers are dying with the bombs. The sisters died. They can't even. Obviously, they can't go back. There's nothing left.
Now, I do have a bit of good news, I think, for you from Balladreen.
Now, let me just pause that there and give you a little bit of context, because I had to cut out some of this clip. And to what Saj is saying there, yes, I'm sure there are obviously some cases, like some genuine cases, but as we've seen, 87% of male migrants are economic migrants. They haven't lost all of their family. They aren't fleeing war or persecution in their country. But anyway, this is interesting because Micheál Frain, who, by the way, is also, as I said, he's an independent candidate running in Balladreen. Some of you would have seen the public meeting that happened there a couple of weeks ago, where they had a massive turnout, like over 100 people crammed into this small room at short notice. Micheál Frain is also the chief fire officer, I've heard, in Balladreen, which is very interesting. So anyone from that area, I would get in touch with Micheál Frain and I would ask him about how some of these places, these IP centres or refugee centres or whatever, are getting fire certs. Like, I haven't put up the video of Brafey House, the one down beside me here in Brafey, where they've converted the big, massive event centre into permanent IP accommodation. But as Susanne already said, all the rooms in the middle of that building have no windows. They're pure dark. They just have three beds in them, and it's pitch black. And you have to run up and down lots of corridors to get near a window or a door. So how are these places getting fire certs? So anyway, that's something to put to your independent councillor there. And also this Saj fella, I've heard some things about him recently, but I can't actually say it at the moment. But if you're local, you know what I'm talking about. I'm just not in a position to say publicly at the moment. Now, Katie goes on here to say, Micheál spoke first, and he spoke about Balladreen taking in lots of Syrian refugees years ago and being promised all these resources and services from the state, one of which being an extension to the school, like new classrooms and whatnot. And that was promised years ago, and it hasn't gone anywhere since. And Micheál just mentioned that, right? So all of a sudden, when it comes back to Katie, she goes, and I actually have some great news for you here. Wait till you see this.
Now, I do have a bit of good news, I think, for you from Balladreen, because we also contacted the Department of Education and they confirmed that there was approval in 2020 for 9 new classrooms. The department said that they were waiting for a planning report from the school authority, and upon receipt of that, they could then make progress. But we spoke with the principal of the school today, who said that the 4-year delay was due to inconsistent engagement by the department, but he had received a call today from the department to say that they will now take full responsibility for driving on the build, and as a first step, they will arrange a site visit as a matter of urgency.
Oh, well, that's Balladreen sorted now. Now that's all. No more issues in Balladreen. They're happy out now. They've got the few classrooms that they were promised. Yeah. But what a load of rubbish! What a load of fix it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and isn't it amazing what they can do when the pressure's on them? One quick phone call to the minister. Oh, matter of urgency now. I'll look after that. Problem sorted. You can go back to sleep, Balladrine. You're grand now. Yeah, I sorted out that for you.
Because they can report it on the TV.
Yeah.
And make themselves look good. And all that's really happened is they've said, oh, we'll come out and we'll look at the site as a matter of urgency.
Yeah.
You'll
come back to that in 2 or 3 years and I won't have gone anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Say again. Sorry, Susanne, I spoke over you there.
That's okay.
All righty, let's keep going here. What have we got next? Oh, Senator Barry Ward. Let's have a listen.
He's an arrogant man.
Oh, you can share 10 videos at once. To share a new video, please remove. Okay, I got to get rid of some videos here. Just hang on for half a second. This is going to be Barry Ward speaking next, and he is talking about, first of all, I think he's talking about the problems with communication. As far as I'm concerned now, the time for communicating with communities is over. It's too late. It's too late for that. We're way past that. Anyway, sorry, let's have a listen to what Barry Ward, Senator Barry Ward, has to say.
Major problems that we now face because of the reaction to this is a lack of communication. And there's a legitimate complaint to be made by people around the country that they're not told what's happening in their own area. That has to change. We've gotten commitments that is changing. And in fairness to the department, they've set up a community engagement unit that is now talking to local public representatives, to local communities, groups in particular areas. That's tremendously important, because when there isn't that information flow, there is a gap, and it's filled by misinformation and people who seek to misrepresent what's actually happening. Well, the policy essentially is to try to move away from the reliance on private accommodation, which was an emergency measure and a costly one at that. And the idea is that the government will, the department will identify sites around the country, and several of them are already in the public domain, where they can build very fast housing and accommodation that will accommodate people, rather than putting them into town centres, and to match that with the services that they require.
Build them very fast, yeah. I doubt it, Barry. Let's see. You don't have a great record in building houses very fast. But just going back to the communication thing, Sover, I think the time for that is, it's too late. It's over. You had your chance trying to communicate with people. He talks about there, like, communicate and tell people what's happening in their area. I don't like the way he said that as well. Like, what's the point? What's the point in the communication if you're just saying, this is happening, by the way, just deal with it. There's no engagement. There's no consulting with the people and getting their feedback or their concerns or anything like that. It's just, he's just saying, like, should be doing better communication and telling them what's going to happen in their town. So I didn't really like that.
Pure waffle. He's just filling the space there with this crap. What's his area like? I'd like to know.
Yeah, I don't know where he's based.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's not based. I'm pretty sure he's not based near any asylum centre.
No, he did actually say in that show that his father, I think, was from Balladrine, so he had some connection, but he's not living there now, I don't think. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he probably got his father out of there, But he's Fine Gaeler, he's just, like, what did he say there that was meaningful or could be relied upon? Get these people out. When is he a TD or a senator?
Senator.
All right, so only people with a third level education can have a say in who's a senator, or politicians. So not everybody can get this guy out.
Okay. Let me see here now. Okay, so this is another clip, Keira Smith.
To put the asylum numbers in context, certainly the numbers have gone up. We've seen in the past few years the numbers are in and around 13,000 annually, and we'll probably see more than that this year. But we do have to put those numbers in perspective. It's still a tiny drop in the ocean that we get compared to the numbers in the EU overall. So there's no sense really that Ireland is overrun or that Ireland is full. Now, what the state is doing this time around, or it's talking about doing, is providing state-owned accommodation to accommodate asylum seekers in, which is a both good and a bad phenomenon. It's good because obviously it's a more long-term response and it takes private service providers out of the equation. But on the other hand, it's an abandonment of the government's promise to abolish direct provision because the state is still providing. And we don't know key questions like, for example, who's going to run these accommodation centres? Is it going to be the state? Is it going to be housing associations? Is it going to be NGOs? Because let's face it, the state doesn't have a great record of providing institutionalised care.
Yeah, just going back to the start of what she said there, Susanne, and you can take over then. But this rubbish argument they make like that, you know, we're not full because we're only taking like a tiny percentage of what some European countries are taking per capita, you know. So, but that doesn't mean anything. I mean, we can only take what we can take. We can only look after who we can look after, you know.
Yeah,
So
it's absolutely
such a stupid
ridiculous.
argument.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. She's comparing, you know, Ireland with countries like Germany or, you know, countries where they have a massive population, and that's insane, you know. And this notion of Ireland is not full because we have some space. It's not just a case of physical space. It's a case of services, etc. And she said, what is it? This sense that Ireland is full is not true. Try telling that to homeless people, to people who have children who are awaiting special needs services or spinal surgeries or any of these things. Naturally enough, if you bring more people in, there's more burden on the services.
You'll hear some of these radical leftists say, but we had a problem before in the hospitals. We had a problem with our housing list.
More people in.
Yeah, as if like it's having no impact of bringing in lots more people. It's no impact at all because we had the problem before, but the problem is getting worse and worse.
Yeah, exactly. Like, look, these people, let's be honest, these people don't live in the real world. They really don't. She's a university professor, gets paid a hell of a lot of money for living in a little lefty bubble. And she doesn't have, she's very haughty as well when she talks. She's superior. You know, she thinks she knows best. And who will provide the services? Well, I can tell you it won't be the state. It'll be public-private partnerships like everything else. All the vulnerable people in this country, whether they be elderly, children in care, you know, asylum seekers, whoever they may be, genuine asylum seekers who might be vulnerable, they are not looked after by the state. It would be cheaper to do it that way. It would be better to do it that way, because when you allow somebody to treat looking after vulnerable people as a money-making exercise, well, then they spend as little as, you know, money as possible doing that with the money they're given, and they cut corners. And look, we only have to look at the Tusla thing with where the 7 out of 10 of those unregulated companies had Arab or African owners, and the I can't remember the pastor's name, but he was given 9.5 million for, you know, basically he was falsifying background checks. So this is the caliber of people who they're given contracts to. And again, it's all about making money. Just public-private partnerships are one of the greatest evils to ever have happened to this country. You know, it's something that we don't talk about, but people really do need to start talking about that, because this thing of giving hoteliers money and business people money to accommodate migrants, this has been going on a long time. It's been going on with homeless people, homeless Irish people, and as I say, all the other groups, elderly, etc.
Yeah, and you've written a very good article on that as well, which we might dig out and link it or put it in the comments. Anyway, let's keep going.
Very experienced photographer. And you were covering those protests that we're looking at there in Coolock in North Dublin for rollingnews.ie. And it is important to say that there were people protesting there. They were just concerned citizens. Absolutely. And had a perfect right to protest. But there was an element at those protests that you say is getting more aggressive. Just tell me what you meant by that.
Well, like you say, I've been covering events for about 40 years, and that ranges from H-block riots to UDA, the IRA, criminal gangs, and then your normal everyday protests, like, for example, the water protests, housing protests, pro-abortion, anti-abortion. But what I found totally different with these ones, and I'm sure what I'm going to say doesn't apply directly to anybody in the audience, okay? But the abuse, the intimidation, the harassment, and the threats which photographers are experiencing directly, I haven't come across before.
Now, obviously, we don't condone any of that threats or anything like that. That goes without saying. But it's interesting there what he says. Like, he's covered all these various protests over this and that and the other for the last 30 years or whatever he said there, and has never seen anything like this. So something different is happening now. People are very, very, very unhappy with what's happening, and some of those people are so frustrated that they are acting in ways that he's talking about there, like they're threatening or whatever, because they feel they have. I can see why they're doing it. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I can definitely see why some people are acting like that, you know.
But I can't say that I have seen this. I've been at protests and gatherings, you know, public assemblies or whatever else, and I can't say that I've seen this. And one of the reasons why people might be angry is because they're being misrepresented. When there is a big protest, they underreport on the numbers. And he's telling us that he has covered H-block protests and, you know, or riots and IRA, you know, stuff as well. And he's trying to make out that somehow something about this is more intimidating and more threatening. I don't think so. I've seen more. Why isn't he concerned about the lefties who come along and drive their car through the crowd and hit people? Or I've seen far more aggression from Antifa type characters than I ever have. You know, I guess there's people who won't believe me when I say that because they'll say I'm biased, but genuinely, I personally have not witnessed anybody being abusive. Challenging, maybe, saying, why won't you cover this story truthfully? Why won't you listen to us? Why won't you speak to us?
Yeah, very, very passionate, like, you know, maybe you would say, and loud, but not threatening. Just to pick up on something you said there when you said like all these lefties. I know we'll have some people watching because I have a couple of people in mind, and one lady in particular said it to me before. She's like, "Why do you say that, Stephen? Like, you know, I'm a lefty. Like these would be like, this woman would be like an old school lefty. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, where you would want to share the resources of the state with the less fortunate, like, you know, and look after homeless people and all that. We're talking about radical leftists here. We're talking about extremists here. That's what we're talking about. These are the people. Just a couple of things maybe Susanne's worth pointing out. Like, these are the people who want open borders, for example. These are the people who want to teach your children all this radical sex education in school. Some of the other policies, these are the people maybe who want to take all your private property in time and give it to the state so that they can divvy it out. These are the sort of the policies that these radical leftists are pushing. So I don't want to upset anyone who's out there thinking, well, I'm kind of a left, because we're all leftists. Like, that's the way we started. Like what it was initially, like, you know, what it was meant to be before it went way too far left.
Yeah. If anything, we're all just kind of slightly right of centre now. There's no, like, we're not, that's a very moderate position. Most of us don't want every single foreigner who's ever come in here to be deported. Like, that's not the case. We just want people to come in a controlled manner, in the right way, and to integrate, and to have numbers that are not going to overwhelm the Indigenous population to the point where our whole landscape and demographic changes forever. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, you have all these issues. Like, to say somebody is far right or far left or right or left on all issues just doesn't make any sense. I mean, you know, to be well balanced, I think you might be a little bit left on this issue, you might be a little bit right on that. And, you know, I would be
left-leaning in terms of economics, in that we should be looking after the less well-off in society, the poor people, sick people, and housing people, and looking after them that way. But in terms of like some of the social issues that are coming in now, yes, definitely I would be right of centre, just because the whole thing has slid too far to the left anyway. When I say right of centre, it would be historically what the centre would have been, basically. Everything has just moved so far left.
They've shifted the Overton window.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. Now let me see. We have a couple more clips here. Let's have a listen.
Between not having the correct documents and being an economic migrant or being an asylum seeker necessarily. But the reality is that when you're fleeing for your life, often you don't have time to apply for a passport. And indeed, if you're being persecuted by the state, it's the last thing that you would do to engage with the services of the state. Secondly, many countries don't have passport services. I'm thinking of Afghanistan or Sudan or Yemen, where you can go and apply for a passport. And then thirdly, there's the extremely prevalent issue of the visa blacklist. But the point is, these are not criminals. The only thing that they have done is failure to travel according to administrative best practice, but they haven't committed any crime.
Yeah, so just to go back to what she said first there, and then you can address what she said at the end. She says, if you're being persecuted, some of these people being persecuted, they don't have time to apply for a passport. They don't have time to do this. So what, they only have time to get whatever, 1, 2, 5, 10 grand together and find some dodgy dude who creates fake. They've only got time to get 10 grand together and get a fake passport of someone who makes them. They don't have time to do it the official way.
They've time to get a fake passport, and then if we're talking about people who are being smuggled, then they're being put in a dinghy or in the back of a container, and these people like this lady here are, they're encouraging and facilitating that. But this is did she say, what was the first thing she said? There's no correlation between something or other. I don't know. She said
not having the proper documentation and being an economic migrant. So throwing your passport away basically and being an economic migrant.
That's
There's
rubbish.
No
That's
correlation.
rubbish. And sorry, but how do you, we know that most people who come in here are not being smuggled in, right? So they came in and they destroyed their passports. So what she's saying is not true. How do you leave a country unless you get a fake passport and you're smuggled? How do you leave a country and get on a plane in the first place with no passport? You try going to the airport here and getting on the plane without your passport. That's not going to happen. I've forgotten some of the things that she said there because I'm so utterly vexed, because this lady seems so plausible to anybody who she might speak to in day-to-day life. She seems educated, but she shows that being educated doesn't mean you're smart. How could she not know the truth of, is she lying to people? Because everything she said there is complete nonsense. Utter nonsense, claptrap, and I'm very annoyed listening to her, I have to say.
Yeah, well, hang in there because you'll have more to listen to in a minute from her.
Of measures in this Asylum and Immigration Pact, which will allow the government to do lots of other things. Firstly, it'll streamline the process. The reality is we know that migration into Europe is a continent-wide issue. It's not something that we should be going alone on. We can see what other countries have done in Europe in terms of going alone, and it hasn't served them well. I'm thinking of our nearest neighbour in that regard. It'll create time limits so that it'll create a greater efficiency. It'll give us access to the Eurodac database, which allows us to see if people have applied for asylum in other European countries or been resident there, in which case their application can be processed much more quickly. There's a whole range of measures in there. It'll also give us access to other supports, solidarity measures, funding that'll help us deal with this situation.
But isn't the criticism that has been levelled at Justice Minister Helen McEntee is that she already has powers that she's not exercising in terms of sending people back to countries when they've come, when they've already been in other EU countries before getting here under the Dublin Convention, and signing deportation orders for people who no longer have a right to remain here.
Well, sorry, there are loads of criticism levelled at Helen McEntee.
That's brilliant. I love that. There are loads of criticisms levelled at Minister McEntee. There sure is.
Most of them are unfair.
Most of them are unfair, he says. Most of them. Some of them aren't a vet. Most of them aren't.
As long as he says so. you know.
Yeah, as long as he says so, yeah.
Like, but, you know, if you say so, it must be true that the criticism is unfair.
Right to remain here.
Well, sorry, I mean, there are loads of criticism levelled at Helen McEntee. Most of them are unfair, in actual fact. Signing deportation orders, that's the way deportation works. The Minister for Justice
but ensuring that then those deportations...
and we've had that debate before, Katie. The reality is it would cost a vast sum of money to physically remove everybody from the country who's the subject of a deportation order.
Yeah, it would cost a lot of money to remove everyone, and it doesn't cost a cent to keep them. That's the thing, isn't it? It's just...
Is he honestly telling us that, you know, I don't know. And then he's reminded me of Nick Henderson earlier on, who said that, you know, if people might not have documents to return to their country, would that be because they destroyed them on the way into our country? And I know somebody who's worked in the Department of Foreign Affairs for a long time, and I know a little bit about how these things work. If somebody gets stranded abroad, an Irish person, and they have no passport, they ring up, you know, the Department of Foreign Affairs here, and they're put onto somebody who will help them get home, and they will be provided with passports. So that's rubbish. Let's talk about Helen. Can we talk about Helen McEntee just for a second, about the criticism that's being levelled at her? I would say that's very fair indeed, because as we've mentioned a couple of times throughout this show, people might not be aware, but there was a briefing that was given to her by the Department of Justice, in which she was advised that most people coming here are economic migrants, and that deportations must resume, because there was a moratorium on deportations during COVID, and they're still acting like there's a moratorium on deportations. And they told her, in order to alleviate pressure on the asylum system, she needed to start deporting people. Now, they tried to hide this document for a long time. And eventually they were forced to release it, and they released it with redacted information. And then the Information Commissioner said, that's not good enough, you need to release it all. And they said the reason why they didn't want to do that is because they were trying to, in the interests of public safety. But what they meant was they're protecting the economic migrants that they're supposed to be deporting, who are here illegally in the first place, destroyed their documents, committed a crime coming in with no documents, or destroying their documents. And she's part of her job. She's the Minister for Justice. Part of her job is to protect the people of this country and our national security and our borders. And instead, she chose to protect people who are not meant to be here. And some of those people, a small minority, but some of those people have gone on to cause great harms here, and have ended up before the courts and have not been deported even then. This is outrageous. Give me a list of incidences where asylum seekers have been physically harmed or murdered. I think there was a case there last week where a foreign man was killed, but I can't think of another case. So who is at risk of who here?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We're nearly at the end of Upfront, this programme. I've a couple of two very short clips to go. Let me just play them here.
Quite dense, probably not incredibly transparent. I've been looking at the pact with my students for 4 weeks, and we've just scratched the surface of it. So it is an incredibly dense and untransparent document, I would say, unhelpfully.
Should it be put to the people?
Well, I mean, good luck with deconstructing that, is what I would say about putting it to the people.
Legislation.
Ireland has a rather strange tradition of opting in to the immigration control measures in the pact. So we love Dublin, for example, the Dublin regulation, because we're never going to be the first country that asylum seekers come into. So it suits us to opt into Dublin. So we like to opt in to immigration control measures, but we don't like to opt in to measures that give rights to asylum seekers.
Yeah, I mean, this one here, she just gets more annoying as the show goes on. Like, and as you said when we were chatting before the show, you know, how to say no without actually saying no. She's asked, like, should we put this to the people about this migration and asylum pact? Like,
no, the people are too stupid.
Two people are too stupid. Like, just kind of trust us on this. Like, say.
She's asked that. She kind of more or less says, oh no, you couldn't ask the people because, you know, they wouldn't understand. They wouldn't make the right decision. They're way too stupid. And then she realizes what she's after saying, and she changes the subject.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, yeah. So anyway, I really enjoyed this last clip here. I don't know if they were expecting this, if Katie and the production team were expecting this, but she put a question to the audience in relation to this Migration and Asylum Pact. So here we go.
Do we think tonight we should be opting into the EU Migration Pact? Show of hands, who agrees we should? Who thinks we should not at this point opt in? Right, okay.
Nobody in the audience, nobody with their hand-picked audience, not one person put up their hand to say that we should be signing up to this this pact. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. They weren't expecting that, obviously. I'm sure they asked people beforehand as well, and people probably gave a different... They wouldn't have asked if they thought that they'd get those results. So maybe people pulled a fast one there.
Yeah, well, I hope Katie didn't go on a solo run there, and didn't run it past the producer. She'd be in trouble.
I don't think Katie ever works off her own initiative.
No.
They're always talking in her ear, and she's very nervous, and she's out of her depth.
She's totally like a rabbit in the headlights sometimes, when there's something going on in her ear, and where am I going now? Where am I going? Anyway, look, that's 2 shows. We could have done a couple of more shows this week. There was a primetime show. There was the 3rd episode. I'm not sure if it's the final episode of Rising Tides presented by Philip Butcher Hayes. Incredible program about the effects of climate change.
People are coming here because of climate change as well,
That's the next big one, exactly. So be ready for that. So we're looking at doing this show every week and picking a few programs from RTE and from Virgin Media and wherever else. And that's really it, I suppose, for now. Susanne, I suppose to say that myself and yourself are going to run in the local elections. We've decided to do. I'm going to be running here in Mayo, and Susanne is going to run in Fingal Council, and
possibly Blanchardstown, Mulholland, possibly. But
Blanchardstown, Mulholland.
Yeah, it's a tall order, But,
it is. Yeah, I know that, and
I'm not running in my own area, by the way, because there's no point.
Yeah, a lot of people would have seen your video of you speaking in Claremorris there a couple of months ago at this stage, just mentioning about your little girl, your little 7-year-old, being the only Irish person in our class, which is amazing.
Yeah, and can I just add to that? I know they are only children, but it reflects what they're hearing at home. A week or 2 after I spoke, she came home from school and said another child had said to her, "I don't normally like white people except for you." So
that's just an example of what she's getting at home.
Yeah.
So if people would like to support us, we're running a GoFundMe just to get printing. We have flyers to print. We have posters to print. We're going to do up a little basic website and different bits like that. We're going to do this show on a weekly basis as well. And we have some other bits and pieces to look after. So if anyone would like to contribute financially, we'd really greatly appreciate it. And I'll put a link in the...
haven't got a penny.
No, exactly. Yeah. So that'd be fantastic. And thanks very much. And just to say as well, for people who are going to vote, first of all, get out there and register to vote, because everybody who's moved into this country over the last 2 years are all eligible to vote. And I'll tell you, they won't be voting for me and Susanne. They'll have been lobbied by your local Fine Gael or Fianna Fáil or Labour or Green Party TD or councillor. They'll all be voting with mainstream parties. They're kind of boosting their voter base here, these mainstream parties. So we really need people to vote, Irish people to get out there and vote for somebody who you think is going to represent you as best as they can. So get out there and register to vote first. That's really important. And if I could just say, you don't necessarily have to vote for me and Susanne, obviously, but vote for independents and anyone who is a good independent, not somebody who's just left Fine Gael a couple of months ago or last year and now is running as an independent. I don't see that as a truly independent candidate. So get out there and look for a local independent candidate who you think is worth giving them the vote. And also, if not an independent, look at some of those kind of right of centre, smaller, new smaller right of centre parties, whoever they might be. give them a shot. Just stay away from the big ones: Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, the Greens, Labour, Soc Dems, PBP, and the Shinners, most importantly, because they think they can walk into the next government and they will be just as bad, if not much worse, than what we've had.
Yeah, we'll be going from the frying pan into the fire, and that's saying something, because the crowd that are in there right now are terrible. But maybe we can flee our government and seek asylum somewhere else and get some benefits when we go there.
Maybe. I think the recent figures show that most people in the last couple of weeks have been coming from Nigeria. Huge amount of people landing here.
Huge country, and it's not. It's a pretty safe country.
Yeah, exactly. So,
for the most part, it's a safe country. Can I just add to that about the elections that we've spoken about this, and I hope it's okay to say, but we're pretty reluctant people in terms of going into politics. This is not something we've ever wanted to do, ever. It's not where we want to be, but we feel that people have to put themselves forward, because things that can't continue as they are. If they do, we'll never ever change things back to the way they were before. But yeah, we're pretty reluctant candidates, but we're willing to give it a try.
We sure are. And if people want to support us and want to vote for us, great. I can definitely tell you that I will do everything I can to represent local people here in Castlebar, and I'm sure you will as well, Susanne. So until next week, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us tonight. If you have any ideas of good shows that you think we should feature on this program, you can let us know. And until then, we'll talk to you later.